Hello there and welcome back to the Random Seeders channel. In this video, I want to talk a little bit about Star Wars. Because I can. Because it's my channel and it's random. So, Star Wars, what can I say? Let's just talk about my thoughts or my excitement, shall we say, at The Rise of Skywalker, which I will be going to see in less than a week. What are we on today? The 9th of December, and I'm going on the 18th because I can here in Croatia. So Deanna and I are going to be going to watch The Rise of Skywalker. Obviously, I understand that The Last Jedi prompted mixed reactions, shall we say, from the Star Wars faithful. I'm sort of in the camp that says, look, it was a good film. It has its flaws, undoubtedly. Ironically, the scene that I was most looking forward to, because it was filmed in Dubrovnik, which is in Croatia where I live, was the most appalling sequence of the film, the scene in Canto Bight. I think universally it's accepted that whole section of the film just doesn't work at all. I also have mixed feelings about the way Mark Hamill was used and the way Luke's character was used, which I'll probably talk about Last Jedi more in another video. But broadly speaking, I'm really enjoying the new trilogy. I watched Force Awakens again recently, and I'm really, really fond of that film in particular. For me, the fan service was just exceptional. I loved the scene where Rey and Finn are running out and the ship that they're going to jump in gets destroyed. I say jump in. The ship that they're going to appropriate illegally gets destroyed. And having already run past a ship that is unseen hitherto and described as garbage, Rey says, the garbage will do. And the camera turns and they're running towards the Millennium Falcon. And at that point, I just lost it. That's the Millennium Falcon. That ship just means so much to me, and I'm sure to many others. It's part of my childhood. And it still got the same tingles when I watched Force Awakens again recently. Just to be taken back to a part of my childhood that was just pure and exciting, and to be taken on a tour almost of this iconic piece of Star Wars history and science fiction history, pop culture, you could say. Just amazing. And look, my attitude towards the new trilogy is that you can do an awful lot wrong and still be forgiven, so long as you're giving the fans those moments. And there were moments like that as well in Last Jedi, most notably the Yoda sequence, which was just beautiful. I'm sure there's going to be more scenes like that in The Rise of Skywalker. So yeah, just keep those scenes coming and I'm on board. I really don't care about all of the other issues. That said, there is one main issue with Force Awakens. Well, let's go back to A New Hope, shall we? Episode 4. The whole beginning of that film, if you analyze it critically, super critically, the whole original trilogy should never have happened. Leia puts the data in R2-D2, and the droids are somehow allowed to escape just because there are no life forms aboard the escape pod, even though the Empire is fully aware of droids and what droids are capable of doing. For some reason they hold off. When they have an opportunity to destroy the escape pod, they don't destroy it. They should have destroyed it, and the whole original trilogy wouldn't have happened. And then they land on Tatooine, and they're just wandering in the desert, and it's only because of the Jawas that they are put in touch with Luke Skywalker. And again, I have a problem with the Jawas, and I realise the Jawas resurface in The Mandalorian. But how is an entire culture sustained on just finding highly sophisticated technology in the desert? I mean, you revisit that in Jakku in The Force Awakens, and there's a reason why there's lots of high-tech equipment in the desert, and that's because large Imperial destroyers have crashed there, so that makes sense. But why on Tatooine is there an entire alien race that manages to not just get by, but thrive, apparently, on finding missing droids? And finding other pieces of equipment that we learn in The Mandalorian. So it's not just droids. In A New Hope, it seems to be just droids that they're finding, but in The Mandalorian, it's expanded to raiding ships that have just been left unattended. So that really doesn't make sense. And again, without the Jawas, you don't get Luke Skywalker, because the droids need to find their way to Luke Skywalker for the whole thing to start. And it's because of the Jawas that they find their way to Luke Skywalker. So if you think about it, there are massive problems just with A New Hope, even though it's an amazing film. And then, so leap forward to the new trilogy, and you have Force Awakens, and you have the Starkiller base, which is infinitely more sophisticated, and you could say improbable, than a Death Star. I mean, a Death Star already looks immense. Like, the amount of resources and funding it would take in any galaxy, no matter how far away, to construct something like the Death Star would just be impossible, surely. But they've gone one better, and they've built something 4 or 5 times bigger, called the Starkiller base. And the Force Awakens is doing splendidly right up to the point where they've assembled, everyone's assembled around this hologram of the Starkiller base, and they're trying to figure out how to destroy it. Sorry, first of all, we learn that the Starkiller base can destroy not just single planets, but entire systems, as it does with Coruscant. That's very sketchy. And why would you be able to see the destructive blasts from the Starkiller base destroying Coruscant from the planet where Han Solo and Rey find themselves? Anyway, so you have this very improbable Starkiller base with a very improbable power to destroy from afar, not just planets, but entire solar systems. Okay, layers of improbability have already built up when we reach the point where they're all around the monitor and they're looking at the hologram of Starkiller base, and they're trying to figure out how to destroy it, and they arrive at a solution just by talking about it, and based on the fact that Finn once worked there and reckons that if they just knock out this particular part, provided the shields can be dropped, which is another layer of improbability. Once the shields have been brought down, if they can destroy this one part of Starkiller base, then the whole thing will implode. And they arrive at a plan just through having a conference on it. More sophisticated technology, simpler solution to destroy it. And with the Death Star, you have an entire film, Rogue One, devoted to how they managed to get the plans for the inferior technology of the Death Star so that they can then destroy it in A New Hope. So you see the disparity here. What does it say about Rogue One? What does it say about that whole story in A New Hope if you can destroy something as sophisticated as the Starkiller base just by looking at a hologram of it in the company of an ex-employee? So that's the glaring problem with Force Awakens, but I still love it. It's still a brilliant film. And here's the thing with science fiction. To enjoy it, you kind of have to suspend disbelief anyway. I mean, we're talking about things that for the most part, I mean, the Force, for example, we're talking about things that just can't happen. So you're being very selective if you're going to start saying, well, I have a problem with this or I have a problem with that. You're either on board for the whole thing or you're not. I mean, obviously, that's not excusing everything. To a degree, it would still be nice if they could think about plausibility and that kind of thing when they're writing the script for these films. But their number one objective and their number one duty is to entertain the audience. And with or without the issues in Force Awakens and indeed Last Jedi, was I entertained by the films? Personally, very much so. So yeah, those are my general thoughts on issues stroke quibbles with Star Wars, and reaffirming the fact that I love it anyway, and it's a big part of my life because despite some negativity in my childhood and in my background, Star Wars was one of the few things I can look back on with real fondness and think, yeah, that was pure. That was just really just delightful and allowed me to get through more difficult times. So those are my thoughts on Star Wars. That's it.